Fáilte roiverísh, the Cardi. You're very welcome to another video from Gundog and Fly. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about stock breaking. In other words, introducing your dog to farm stock, cattle, sheep, and the like. And being as virtually all my hunting is done over farmland, this is vital to get right. You need, if you're hunting over farmland or any place where you're going to run into cattle, sheep or horses, etc., it's vital that this is done correctly, because if you get it wrong, it can negatively impact the dog for its life, and it can also obviously have a negative impact on yourself, because your dog will not be behaving in the best manner. So I've seen it done wrong, and where it was done wrong, I have seen dogs that, in the case of cattle, were terrified of cattle for the rest of their lives as a result of getting it wrong the first time. So on introducing your dog to, say, I'm going to use cattle just as an example, it's very important that you try to find cattle that are nice and quiet. If you know a friendly farmer who has cattle who are used to having dogs around the place, or are used to being, for instance, herded by sheepdogs, which are sometimes used to herd cattle as well, that can be very helpful, because the cows will be used, the cattle or the cows, whatever they are, they'll be used to dogs and won't immediately jump all over the place or rush in on top of your dog and terrify it, which can happen, and that can stay with the dog for the rest of its life. Now, I have seen dogs recover in time, but a lot of gun dogs have a particular sensitivity to being crowded or rushed in on by, say, a herd of cattle, and it can have a very, very bad effect on them that, like I say, can last for a lifetime. So it's imperative that you get this correct. So in this video, I was lucky enough, in the case of the cattle, the cows in fact, I was lucky enough to come upon some cows who I knew by their behaviour when they first saw me, they didn't immediately rush up onto me and rush up to have a look at the dog. I knew that they were quiet, and most likely they were used to seeing dogs or were herded by dogs or whatever the case may be, but they didn't have any negative effect on the dog. They didn't immediately crowd the dog, which is very, very important, and you'll see in the video how I handle it. And in the case of sheep, well, sheep are not such a problem, but again, has to be carefully done, because you don't want your dog going off chasing after sheep, and that can really upset sheep farmers and might cause some serious problems for you. So in this video, you'll see me introducing the dog to cattle and sheep, and all goes well. But just be aware and be very careful. If you have any queries or any questions about it, jump into the comment section, ask the questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I hope you're enjoying this series of videos on dog training. If you are, click the like button, and if you're not already a subscriber to the channel, consider subscribing. And in the video description here, there's a link to my Patreon page, where any little bit of support would be thankfully acknowledged and gratefully received. Okay, so let's jump into the video now and see how it goes with the cattle and the sheep. Now, another important part of training a gun dog, given that it's going to be hunting in the countryside, it needs to be familiarized to farm stock. And what I have here are cows, and Rua has never seen cows before, so as you can see, she's very curious. But the best thing you can do to acclimatize your dog to stock is to bring them like this on the lead, and you're going to need relatively quiet cows that are possibly used to dogs and used to people, ones that are not boisterous and jumping and leaping around the place. So these seem to be relatively quiet. They're continuing to graze while I approach. Rua is very curious. She's no idea what they are, and what she needs to understand is that she's not to chase them or pay too much heed to them at all. So I'm just holding her here
And the best thing you can do with your dog is keep your dog around the stock until the dog essentially becomes bored with looking at them. At that point the dog is essentially acclimatized to cows. Now sheep are a different prospect because of course sheep are instinctively afraid of dogs and will run at the sight of a dog. But what you can do if you have a friendly farmer, a friendly sheep farmer, is when he has his sheep penned up, just bring your dog to the pen and just hold your dog around the sheep in the pen until the dog again becomes bored. Now this one here is curious and coming over, approaching us. Not too boisterous or anything, but just a little curious, and that's all I want, is just her to see the cows. Going back to the sheep, if you don't have a friendly farmer, if you can find where there are sheep in say a small field or something like that, where you can just walk the dog around like I'm doing here. It doesn't necessarily have to approach the sheep or sniff the sheep or anything like that, just that it can see them. And as you can see now, Rua here she's not any bit perturbed or put out by him, because like I said, these are quiet cows. They're obviously used to people and possibly used to dogs as well, so you can see that they're not going to do her any harm. The ideal situation would be to stay around here for maybe 10-15 minutes. Unfortunately I don't have that much time this morning, but this is a very important thing to do, because you don't want your dog chasing cattle or sheep and upsetting the landowners. So that's ideal. If you have nice quiet cows like this, excellent. I'll just walk over here another little bit. That's it. Now, I think that's kind of good enough. No bother. So there you go. Introduction to farm stock. Very important. By the way, I almost forgot to mention, horses are a different prospect altogether. I strongly advise you to keep your dog away from horses. I've had nothing, only negative experiences with horses and dogs. Horses, I've seen horses many times try to kill the dogs. Whatever is in horses, they're just now I suppose there are horses that hunt with hounds and stuff like that, and obviously they're not a problem with dogs. But when you see horses in the field, my strong advice is to keep your dog out of the field, or your dog may in fact not come home at all. I've known people whose dogs have been killed by horses, so bear that in mind. Now, never want to overlook an opportunity. Spotted these sheep here. Now they seem to be quite they're about what, 120-30 yards out, and I'm going to bring Rua in here to lift her over this fence here. I don't know how some sheep can be extremely scared of dogs, and others who've been worked by dogs not so scared. So I'm just going to, this will be her first time ever seeing sheep, so I'm just going to walk her up along here now, nice and slowly, and see how she reacts. The sheep are actually coming in my direction, so maybe they're used to being fed by people and that have dogs with them. Maybe they don't seem to be all that put out. Now some sheep will head, oh yeah, they're scared now, alright. Some sheep will head for the horizon. Leave it, leave it. Now we're getting much closer to them now. Yeah, and they're getting, hey, leave it. Leave it. Yeah, she's very interested in them. Alright, hey, leave it. Leave it. She can smell them now because the wind is blowing this way as well. Now, it's normal to be curious about them, but I don't want her to be getting really alert on them and wanting to chase them. That'd be the worst thing, of course. Sometimes you'll get sheep that are really bold and they'll approach a dog even because of the way they've been handled before. Hey, leave it. And now I'm just going to walk up here. Hey, leave it. That's good. Now they're running around the place and she's interested, but I don't see her wanting to chase. If I stand, the sheep are coming my direction, so I'm going to stand here. That's good. Great to get cooperative sheep. Now that's even better because leave it, leave it. It's okay to look at them. You can look at them, but that's it. As you can see here, she's... Hey, hey, leave it. Good girl. Leave it, leave it. Now, bear in mind this is our first time ever seeing them. I'm quite happy with the way things are going. So, I'm just going to walk over here a little bit more now. Nice and slowly, so there's no... I don't panic the sheep. Hey. That's good. She's looking at them running away. Hey, hey, hey. Now, if I left her down with the leash, she'd possibly chase them if they ran away from her. So I'd much prefer now that the sheep approached me again. So I'm going to stand here. Ooh. Off they go now. But as you can see, Rua is not, she's looking away, she's not all that interested in them now. She knows what they are. Yeah, she'd much prefer to go hunting birds, I think. So it's critical that you would introduce your dog to farm stock, as before mentioned. And Rua has now seen cattle and sheep, and I'm happy with the way she's behaving. There's no kind of, she's not showing any real inclination to chase them or to approach them or anything like that, so that's good. I'll just stand for a second to see will they approach. No. Now you can see the sheep are running that way and Rua is here just nosing around the ground. Not paying that much heed to them at all. Right, hey, leave it. Alright, okay, I'll get back to hunting birds.